is it's I've been busy. He was great in assisting me in becoming a trustees of W4MOV, the IEEE Disaster and STEM Outreach Relief Truck in Durham. More about it later if you'd like.
Hi, and KD4UHB, Thomas out of Carborough. I'm here after a little bit of an absence. See y'all.
And Dave, W4SAR, Efland.
Karen, KD4YJZ, F.
Randy, KF40 in Hillsboro.
I'm Chris, KE5ABB from Efland.
Steve, KZ1X, Full Hill.
Bob, W4FK, and I want to thank Chip for the cookies tonight.
And Paul, N0US in Hillsboro. Dan, KR4UB, Southwest Orange County.
John, N4SGW, North Chatham County.
The other Paul, N2XF from Butner.
Tom, Kilo Romeo 4, Bravo Tango Papa, otherwise known as KR4BTP, from Durham.
Dave, NA4VY, Mebane.
Ron, Kilo Oscar 4, Romeo Oscar November, Pittsburgh.
Chocolate Chip here, KF4WBK. And I'll publish the recipe.
John, KR4GOK, Burlington.
Clayne, KE4CA from Chapel Hill.
And Jay, Chapel Hill, KM4IRF.
Thank you, everybody. Let me walk over here to the straight table with all this equipment and badge stuff on it. Start off with Boyd.
Boyd Hudson, KO4GJO, Hillsboro.
Lori, N1YXU.
Matthew, KQ4ZYW. And tonight on Zoom, we have George, KF8CNA, Alice, KQ4FCA, JR, N4JQR, Ken, KO4DHJ, Ryan, N7RYN, John, KQ4 WZA, and Peter. And now to Wilson.
Wilson, W4BOH, Hillsboro. All right, thank you, everybody. I'd like to say a special hello to our visitor from Ohio tonight. He was on our 10-meter net on Monday night, and I thought he would come in on HF, but now he came in over Zoom, and he had an amazingly strong signal. Of course, that was really Dan's signal, but I'd like to welcome him to the group. And we have one last person coming in here. Let me go to the back of the room here. Here you go.
Good evening, all. This is Juan, KR4EQW.
Juan knows how to make an entrance, and we've got a badge here for him somewhere. Okay, so that takes care of the intros. And Ron has asked for a couple minutes before we get into the first part of the meeting, which will be the elections. And that's always fun. So hopefully tonight we will continue to have some fun. But let me pass the microphone over to Ron.
Stay where you are, Bruce. Come on up. Come on, Lori. Yes, you. That Lori. So Bruce and Lori have been our secretary and our president for a combined 8 years. They love it so much, the only way we could kick them out was to change the rules so that they couldn't serve any longer. That's not true. But anyhow, we have a gift. It says you're appreciated. Go someplace nice. You can go someplace nice. It says, "Dear Bruce and Lori, in deep appreciation for your faithful service to the OCRA Radio Club, your combined 8 years of leadership, guidance, and friendship have helped to make the club what it is today, and we are very good. Dear friends from the OCRA Club and the Board of Directors." And anybody who hasn't signed it who wants to, we'll have it back here somewhere. Thank you, guys. Very good. Thank you. Really appreciate it. We love you guys. Oh, and thanks to Wilson. This was Wilson's idea, by the way, so you can blame him.
Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate it. I think Wilson has something. Okay. Have I ever had a few words? You know, it's really hard to give presents to some people. I remember when Deanna and I used to do 30 or 40 presents. So we gave away so many presents, we had to have a spreadsheet. Every little niece and nephew had to get some. But that's gone by now, and all my presents are the same color, green. And sometimes I get feedback about the size, but the color is never wrong. So when I heard about this going on tonight, I realized that, you know, the club might do something nice, but not really special, even though I don't know if Bruce would ever take her to a nice place, but now we know he has to. So I thought a lot about what might be meaningful. And it's especially hard to shop for sophisticated people, you know, who live in a gated community. Actually, they live on Gateway. And, you know, they have all the radios and cars and tractors and stuff they could ever use. And just everything down there is really nice. So I racked my brain to try to think of something that would fit in. And of course, I combed all the stores in Hillsborough and Chapel Hill to get something. And so I brought it. My father told me if you had a problem to celebrate it. Now, can you imagine selling something like that? But in it, this is fine Austrian crystal. And you can tell that because it has their name right on it, Ball. And I was really lucky to find two. Usually you can only find them one at a time. But aren't they nice? And my parents told me it was very crass to leave the price tag on something. But I knew that if they didn't have the tag on them, nobody would believe that they cost $159 a piece. So I left the writing on there. And now we hope they will have some fine wine or some rock gut bourbon or some homebrew beer out of official OCRA goblets. Thank you very much. And I'm sure it will be wine. They are outstanding. It's amazing how they're attached. That is fantastic. I know. Now we've got to spend more for wine. 300. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure for 4 years. Lori and I have had a really good time. There's been a few times when we've lost some hair. You can tell I'm losing some up here, but it's nothing to do with the club. It's all other stuff. But anyway, it's been a fun 4 years. And with that, other than the thank you very much, and I'm sure if I can't find a good place to go for dinner, Lori, I'm sure will suggest a few. I'm sure she's got one or two at the top of her list right now. And I know one of them might be in Scarborough or Chapel Hill. 3 digits. Okay. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, she likes the 411. Yeah, 411. Very nice plate. Okay. if you can get to the agenda, sir. Oh, yeah, that'll probably be a good idea. Okay, if you go to the next page. Okay, so Marv Hoffman, like I said, will not be here tonight, and it's a good thing. Elections are next, and then we'll do show and tell from Paul. And Paul has his 6-meter Moxon here, and lying on the table is a 10-meter Moxon. And I helped Paul put together the presentation, and it is extremely good. It's really great with the technique and everything that he used to put that together. Many iterations, couple failures. I think he gave one of them to Dave, like one of the early failures Dave had. Oh, okay, so Dave made one that didn't work at all. Paul gave one. So we'll hear the story anyway when Paul is up here. We can have Dave, we'll give Dave another microphone. All right, and then we'll have Tom who's going to talk to us about another antenna, and it's specifically called the flower pot antenna. And the challenge I put out to everybody is find the flower pot, okay? And then we'll do some closing comments. But if we can move into the elections. First of all, the nominating committee was Fred, Ron, and myself. And we worked over a period of several weeks and months to try to find some folks that were interested in joining the leadership team. And we've got some good folks that you'll be seeing on the next slides. And actually, you've already seen their names. As part of our bylaws, we have to provide the information months in advance so that you would be able to see who's there, understand who they are, have any questions. Also, we asked for others to come forward if they were interested to nominate somebody or to potentially run themselves for some office. And I know I have not seen anything. Ron, is anybody? Okay, Ron is saying no. And Fred is not on tonight, right? Fred is also homesick with the flu, as is his wife. So, another glad he's not here, but unfortunately he's still sick. So he is? Oh, okay, great. Glad you're there, Fred. So go to the next slide. And this one you'll probably remember. This is something that we put together for the November meeting. December was the Christmas party, so we did this in November. And this Ron put together so we can actually see what we're trying to do. Now, I thank you, first of all, for saying all the great things that Lori and I have done over the past 4 years. There was one thing that I really screwed up, and that was in order to get people to stay on to board of directors, we changed the bylaws where they could just run for 1 year. Well, the problem with that is essentially we could lose all the board of directors in the same year rather than, see, the train doesn't agree with me either. Instead of having people run in alternate years where we have some overlap, that's getting fixed this year. So for the elected officers, president position is still open. There's a president by committee with Boyd and Ron and Fred and who else? Who's the third person? There was somebody else that, oh, Matthew. Yeah, right. So that's still open, and hopefully that'll get filled sometime in the next few weeks and months. Matthew is running for secretary, and he's already been in that position, and he did the transition with Lori, and so he's doing a fine job. Not voted in yet. Okay. Dave is taking over from Dan as trustee, again, to vote in. Okay. And then Boyd, he stays for another year. His term is not up until the end of 26. Ron is treasurer. His term is not up until the end of 26. Okay, next slide. And now we fix the problem with the board members at large. What we have is 4 people that are going to be running for 2 years. Bob, who's on the board, Ken, who will be new to the board, Ben, who will be new to the board, and Jonathan, who will be new to the board. So these 4 people are new to the board this year and will be hopefully elected tonight, and their term will be for 2 years. To fix the 1 year, 2 year thing, Wilson, Karen, and Aurora and Fred will all be 1 more year. This would be the end of Fred's 2nd year, and Wilson, Karen, and Aurora have agreed that this is a one-time exception to the rule, and we actually put that in the bylaws. This is a one-time exception. They will go for 1 year, and then from now on, we'll have the alternating 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. So that was what we explained in November. Next slide, please. So here's what we're going to be voting for tonight. This is the official ballot. And you'll see, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. And these are 2, and these are 2. Okay. And does anybody have any questions about anything at this time? Okay. What I would suggest, since nobody is running opposed, all right, and we have, according to the bylaws, we don't need to eliminate anybody that wants to be on the board because of the quantity of people allowed in the bylaws and the quantity of people that we will have as board members at large. I'd like to see if we get a motion from the floor to adopt this ballot. Okay, as we got to get it in the meeting minutes. Okay, thank you, Chip. We have a second. Paul seconds it. Okay, it is being recorded, but it's good when we get the names too, because Matthew's doing the notes this time. Okay, and with that, moved and seconded. Do I have, please raise your hand if you agree with accepting this ballot as it is in front of you. Okay, the recording could not hear everybody raise their hands, but I believe there was. Okay, let's see. Are there anybody against it? Because I think, okay, so it went unanimously to accept the ballot. Yeah, it's a landslide, right? Whether it's popular vote, electoral vote, or whatever, they won. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Is there anybody on the Zoom? I forgot about that. Anybody on the Zoom meeting that would have any questions or issues? Except for the guy from Ohio. George, you don't get the vote. This is George, by the way. Okay, very good. So moved, approved, and accepted. So I thank everybody and appreciate it. So I did one of my last foolish things I did as president was I said to Boyd, I said, if you would like me to, I'd be more than happy to continue with the meeting tonight, and you can have it from now on. And I figured, how could I make an easier offer like that? Because all I need to do is hand the microphone to Paul and then hand the microphone to Tom. And that's all I have to do the rest of the night. So with that, next slide, please. Now we're going to have Paul Robertson talk to us about his fun project of building 6 and 10 meter Moxons. And should we have Dave move to the front so he can be heard? Oh, okay, very good. Here you go, sir.
Okay, not used to a microphone, so if I talk too far from it, let me know. I made some notes, so the next slide would be, that's convenient. So this is the third version of the one. Oh, that's what I told you, is keep telling me about there. This is a Moxon antenna. This is a camouflage poles right here. It's made out of PVC. It's got a little struts over there hanging it up. I made several revisions. Gave one to Dave. Gave another one to Dave. Sold one to Dave. Let's see. So that's revision note. Les Moxon is the name of the Moxon antenna. He didn't actually invent it. He made it. And LB Civic. Mike. I'm not very good with mics. You can probably tell that. So a Moxon is the name of the antenna, but LB Civic, which you may have heard of, is a antenna designer, a mathematician, really extraordinary. He's the one that came up with the dimensions here, and we'll skip to the next one. You can get this on the internet. One of the things you won't find on all of them, not all of them, is no, Matthew, you got your cursor. Can you point here at this this app right here? You won't find all those dimensions or that dimension on many of the websites. It's very handy for figuring out the length of the spreaders, which is this dimension right here. I got more notes than you wrote. Okay, so Mike's. You can call me Mike if you want. Pay attention to this position A, not the dimension, but the position A and the position C. They'll come up later. Next slide is, those are samples of all the PVC pieces of pipe I've got. There's the thick wall, Schedule 40, and there's this so-called thin wall. It's irrigation pipe. There's a CPVC pipe because it's a slightly different size. And then there's PEX. There's two pieces of PEX pipe over here. So that helps you figuring out how you can put things together. So that's one. I'm trying. Okay, this is an almost finished Moxon. It's just a lot like the one I made for Dave. These are camouflage poles. This also is a camouflage pole up here. And I'm not sure where you buy that. See the black thing right in the middle, that little tripod? That makes thing so really, really easy. With that and two poles on the side of the tripod, you can put a piece of camouflage pole up and push it up and push it up, push it up. I've got one that's 35 or more feet with a guy. You can see the red antenna wire here. You can see the insulator there. We'll get into that a little later. And what you can't really see is from this corner right here up to the top of this mast right here are, Wilson calls them trusses, I call them guide. You can see them right there. But the guys, the web can't. Thank you. Here's a close-up of the Bruce like to call the mast. This is the vertical piece that holds up the trusses of the guide. I'm out here. These are two cross pieces right here, PVC cross pieces, joined by a little piece right there and a little piece down here. So the real trick is that you can put all this you can glue this together. The cross piece with the vertical and the little short piece there. And you can glue these other pieces together down here. But right here, you don't glue that until the end because you don't know what the angle's going to be. There's some people that calculate the angle. I didn't calculate it. You just left that one piece loose so I can spin it back and forth like that. And adjust it just right. Then I glued it. It's called empirical engineering, I believe. Over here, you can see what I did with the spreaders. These spreaders right here. That one doesn't. This one counts right here. You see the slot right there. When you put that in here, it doesn't jam. You ever notice how PVC pipe will jam when you go to stick it together? That relieves it right there. And while we're looking here, this is a coupling that joins this bottom part here. It connects to the camouflage pole with a worm clamp, and it's slotted in here. I think you'll see that later. Slotted here in here so it can squeeze. This is a stub of Schedule 40 PVC pipe. And this is an unusual piece right here. This coupling is extra double length. rather than the regular couplings you usually get. And it's slotted right there, and it's just got a stopper hole in it. And I think you'll see that later too. All held it together with worm clamps. Yeah, I think so. Okay. So here's the vertical part that holds up the trusses. See you just barely see the trusses right in here. And up there are, that's a key ring. Well, just below the key ring is a piece of PVC pipe that's been slotted similar to this one here. And it's got a screw in it, keep it from sliding down. And there's a key ring on there, and then an additional oval ring to prevent the rope from cutting. You can see right here, since it's an oval ring, it keeps the rope away from the sharp part of the ring. This is the spreader. That's a stainless steel screw. Yeah, somewhere it's in here. It says stainless steel. It's a good idea unless you're not going to leave it up all the time. Okay, here we have this black flag. You look back a couple of things back there, you'd see on the cross pieces, you'd see a black flag on two of them and not on two of them. That's because of the difference in the height of where the spreaders are. So this piece of rope needs to be a different length. Helps keep them straight. And this is how I adjusted the length of the rope, because I can't tie knots like Wilson. So I can't tie a knot and move it up and so on. So there's a clamp right. My next most favorite one. This is a piece of thing again. Matthew's laughing. So, well, okay, next time give me give me the club. Give me one of these right here. These are the end pieces that you see right here. So that's a beep was the 10-meter net is about to start. This is a piece of PVC pipe that I drove this piece of dowel into about that far and cut it off. And then it's drilled this way. You see the red wire going through, that drilled for the wires right here. And then it's drilled and tapped. It's drilled and tapped here for a set screw. The reason for the set screw, or actually any other kind of screw, is to, once you set the length of these wires going here and there, they're fixed. You can take it apart. This whole thing just pops right out. Okay, here's an insulator. And according to SEBIC, thank you. According to the designer of the antenna, this length between the two ends of the dipole, the two dipoles that are folded around, that length is extremely critical. That's the high voltage end of each dipole. And here's an example of the feed. And if you look over here on the table, you see a more nearly completed one. Oh yeah, remember the locations A and B? That's okay. Well, remember locations A and C, those are the locations of this. A is where the feed is, and C is the gap between the two dipole. Oh, there's a good place to see the red tape, red, yellow, black, blue, green tape. Okay, now I can do the next one. That piece of a well, I'm not used to a microphone. You guys, you all guys have done this so many times before. I'm not good on a microphone. This is what the top of a military pole or a camouflage pole looks like. They are neck down right here so that they telescope into each other. And like I mentioned before, you can put about 30 or 40 feet of them up. One thing is though, that most of the metal ones, actually the metal ones come in two varieties. There's the one that's rather heavy metal, and then there's this lighter one here, which has a stiffening ring about the bottom, around the bottom part of it. That needs to be cut off so you can slide it through that tripod arrangement. This is a piece of PVC pipe with a either you can call that an increaser or a reducer. And then a piece of PVC pipe here, 3/4 inch PVC pipe. Here you can see the pole put together with a worm clamp. The worm clamp would come down here. Well, it was started at 212, wasn't it? Yeah, 212. That's the boiling temperature of, I don't know. So this is that long round coupling that has been split so that the worm clamp can work on it. This is a worm clamp, for example. This one has not been cut yet. So it's been cut about 2/3 of the way here and the same just up on the top. It's been cut another 2/3 of the way there. The idea being that this worm clamp can squeeze it. And then down here you can see them together. Now, the final version has right here a relief hole to keep this split from propagating. That's another one of the improvements. Okay, that's it. I guess you can see there's a right here behind me. You can see this is a 10 meter and this is a 6 meter. These are about 2 feet, or maybe about 2 feet apiece. That's okay. I might even be able to answer a couple questions. Am I okay? Come over and sit there. Well, actually, what I have done is not part of this project, but part of another project is that big piece of pipe. Yeah, that's where that goes. It won't stay very well. It took a piece of this pipe right here and took another piece and took a big chunk out of it there, squeezed it, and ended up with a ring on the top here so I can rotate the pole underneath and rotate the antenna. Not up there yet. Look, yep, tear apart, yep. Now, questions? Yes. Well, really a good idea.
I was asking if it would be advantageous to have a guy or a truss run from up there to hold the feed point somewhere near the same plane as the reflector. This is better than a big aluminum hat.
Try to pull it over the top.
We need an extraction. Bring the jaws of life.
What I did was I put this on a pill bottle and spun it around and then actually rests over here so that the feed line falls down here instead of falling over here. So that does happen. Not on the.
And earlier you showed the tails where you trimmed them off, hanging off of here. Is that kind of like a tuning stub or you're fine tuning it? Yeah, we're not in the air. You can say anything on Zoom.
This is where you take up some of the slack. You know, you start on this piece right here. This is one line. From here to this corner, to the other corner over there. So if you want to shorten this long piece over here, you got to bring it up through there. Now that shortens everything else up, so you got to bring that up through. And loosen these set screws and bring them through. And the slack ends up down here. Some of the slack ends up here. And when you finally get it tuned, which takes a while, you cut off the extra and you put heat shrink, adhesive type heat shrink or marine heat shrink right here. Yes. Yes. Oh.
We've used a version of this for the 10-meter station at field day, but on that one, the plane, which you're now showing is in a horizontal plane, was vertical. So really the question I got, since we use that for field day, what is the polarization of this antenna as it is now? It is horizontal. Yeah, say again.
On a field day above the peak of the garage or barn, whatever you want to call that, was also horizontal. That big guy over there. Oh God, contacts on the 10-meter, 6 meters, maybe not so much, but on a 10-meter antenna, Africa, a lot of Europe. I don't think any Russia. Nothing particularly out to the West Coast for some reason. If you get tired of holding that, I wouldn't blame you. What? Well, I must have been either very must have been a hold it for me though.
One thing Paul mentioned was about a joint not to glue. And I think Bob asked a question about tuning an antenna. And that joint doesn't get glued until it's all tuned, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's a lot of the people that have built these things, and there's a lot of websites out there will tell you what this angle is. I have no idea what this angle is. It's what it ended up being before I glued this point right here. I would like to say thank Bruce so much for helping me to put that thing together.
You are very welcome, and it was fun. Yeah, Paul and I used Zoom a couple times, and he sent me a bunch of pictures, and I sent him a presentation, and he changed it, and I sent him a presentation, and it was fun. We just went through it all and put the words together, so we had a good time. So, great job, first of all. And Dave, does yours work, or you still have version 1.0 of mine?
The original one I had, you know, you can do version of this. Without, I mean, one thing that Paul does is he makes it so it's you can disassemble it, which is very important for field day. So he could take it apart, put it back together in 15 minutes or so, or even that. But if you're making a permanent one, you can make an easier version of this. And some of our earlier versions were basically where we just had like angle pieces of plastic. Yeah. Where right here, where you had, instead of doing this, we had female couplings at 45 degrees right over here, and then you had the spreaders come out. The trick was getting these lengths perfect. And so what you do is you use like plastic ties and things like that, kind of approximate it, and you check the SWR. And you say, well, is it too high? Is it too low in terms of frequency? And so you keep moving it around until finally you get the right one. Right. You don't want to cut until you're sure. Because we in our first versions we had holes in here where we would try different different lengths and all that sort of stuff, because it's really critical. Because really what this is, it's two dipoles that are folded. And they interact with each other.
Before I finish my presentation, I have more to say. The hardest part of the hardest part about putting this up after you've taken it down is straightening out the wire. It's like Christmas tree light. Here's an earlier one, or one that 10 meters. I'm gonna use 4 Made this one with THHF. Stiff, hard to straighten out. This is the 10-meter one. Oh, and you can also see where I did not use stainless steel. See the rust. Oh, yeah, this is the hard part, is straightening this out. And then the way I put it up is after I get it straightened out, I throw it down the ground and I assemble the spreader. Put the wire up there instead of trying to put the wire up over the top. You're done now. Oh.
Not only done, but you're well done. Good job. Yeah, so when Paul just said, it took him about 4 or 5 years through the revisions to get it right. And it's used every year at field day. And when you're using this on the 10-meter net, your signal comes way up. So I guarantee you that it works. Okay, next on the agenda tonight, we have another antenna. Next slide. One more. There we go. Okay. So Tom Beckett has something called the flower pot antenna. And as I said earlier, try to find the flower pot. I'm still looking for it. But with this, I will turn the microphone over to Tom and he can tell you all about this one. More PVC, folks.
Thank you. I'm actually going to set this down. It's really hard not to do the Three Stooges thing. But I've actually been licensed for less than a year now. Pretty soon will be a year. But early in my radio career, I bought a really nice little HF radio. Well, anyhow, I heard about 6 meters and I had the spool antenna was my first antenna for HF, and that's 10 to 40, which means it won't go to 6 meters. And I had been to an event where we had made some 2-meter ladder line J-pole antennas, and that was really fun. So that gave me courage to try to figure out how to do a DIY 6-meter antenna. And I looked all over the internet at different designs and found this design for a flower pot antenna, which is really popular in Australia, apparently. But basically, it's a single length of coax cable. So I think Paul was calling it a coax dipole. So move the slide. This is VK2ZOI in Australia published a how-to on a website about how to do this. And this basic diagram about how it works is copied in every subsequent design on the internet. But basically, you have a single piece of coax. You and I used RG8X because that's what I had. Someone had given me a length of it. But you strip off the braid. Okay. 1 over lambda. No, that's wrong. It's like a quarter wavelength. You strip off a quarter wavelength of the braid, and then you do a bunch of turns as a choke, and it turns into a, in this case, 6-meter antenna. There's also a design for 2 meters, and there's a design for dual band, which is more sophisticated than I was up to. But all of this fits into this single PVC tube, which really met what I was looking for, was like just something easy to put up and take down, because what I really still am completely outdoors with my radio. And let's move the next slide. It was a fun project in May or June, and I went to the Lowe's and looked at all the PVC pipe and picked out what I figured I'd need from the measurements. And I, tested it out outside of the tube first, and then put it all inside the tube. And when I was looking at the PVC pipes and joints and stuff at Lowe's, it was this cute little T joint, and I thought that'll be just perfect for hanging it with. And then one of the designs, the person had 3D printed a form to fit over the PVC pipe for the choke, so you could have a wider set of windings and fewer windings. And I just got another length of PVC pipe and glued it on there rather than figuring out how to use a 3D printer. Let's move it one more. And after all was said and done, it, the standing wave ratio in that 6-meter-ish range was really pretty good. So coming from a place where I knew nothing more than what you could learn on taking the general exam, I got a little practical experience in making an antenna, a little practical understanding of the wavelength ratios. There's something involved here called the skin effect. I don't know what that is, but I read about it. And, understanding how this choke works to isolate the feed line from the radiating elements of the antenna. And I've used it a few times with our 6-meter net. Real barrier to me now is that it's still just outside, and I have to go and set up everything outside and hoist it up. But it's just been a great design, and y'all can come and look at it. And the antenna really does not need to be inside the tube. The tube is, basically to make it easier to use, but you could also just hang it, except for the choke part. And is there one more? No, okay. This is a handout too, a whole bunch of URLs where if you wanted to follow up and make one of these yourselves, you can do that. Go to the first slide again. So here, I just wanted to show you, this is why I use the T-joint. It just fits on a loop of my hoisting line. And since I don't know a heck of a lot about it, you can ask your questions and I'll answer it as best I can. Okay. Well, I'm not sure, but I think it's because of this choke is like a can. Okay. This, and because the rest of the antenna doesn't need to be in the tube, you know, you can just hang it so you could coil it up when you're not using it. So I think this is the flower pot. Well, I don't know why it's called flower pot, but one or two of the websites that I've referenced here, and I think it's probably the person whose design I mainly used, gave a demo at his ham club in Australia, where he actually sort of had it was a 2 meters, so much shorter, and he had plastic flowers festooning the whole thing. So it's more literally a flower pot. Right. It is a really good stealth antenna. Sure.
Is it, do you hang it up right beside the tree? You don't notice it, the tree bother it at all on that side, or?
I have no idea. What I have been able to use the antenna on the 6 meter net. And that's pretty much it. Wow.
I made a 6 meter and a 10 meter J pole out of ladder line, and they're within a foot less of the pine tree. No difference either.
What?
My question is how high in that matter?
I think this is what, about 12 feet. That's a frustrating thing too, is switching back and forth between metric and English when you're taking, anyhow. 10 feet. Okay. So the top of that is going to be 25 feet off the ground on that particular limb. Depends on the limb. It depends on my pitching ability with the arbor weight. Any other questions? Thank you. It was fun. Get to go away yet. Yeah, so a little later in the year, well, around the same time, I got a Yaesu FT891, like grown up radio, and over the summertime, I mean, the our house backs onto woods, and we have this little tent-like gazebo that was right next to the tree that I could just sit there with a station in the summer, and it's nice and it's beautiful and it's outdoors and it doesn't take a lot of battery. But it does involve like 20 minutes of setting stuff up and then taking it down. And that got to be kind of a barrier. And also now I want to be a grown-up ham and have an indoor station. And so the office I'm using in the house is the front of the house. And then I have this beautiful, let's move to the next one. This 05 antenna was given to me by a ham who'd moved here from out of state, had posted to the OCRA DFMA list that he had this antenna. I thought it was just, you know, some wireline antenna or something like that. But no, this is a very fancy antenna, but it's basically an end-fed half-wave with, you know, an extensible pole. and needs to be set into the ground. And so for the last 6 months or so, I've been accumulating the things necessary to mount this antenna. And I'm almost there. But that's going to the backyard. The office is in the front of the house. Let's move the next one. So the office, basically here next to my desk is where I want to put the radios. The wall behind that shelf goes to, it's an exterior wall to what is now an enclosed carport. So it's a dry space, but the front of the house, we move. So you can see here in the carport, this is all siding from the outside of the house. From this image, the office would be like over here. I can put a hole through the wall and then run cable across the high end of the garage. There is this disused dryer duct that, you can see the new dryer duct goes somewhere else. But to the back door, and then let's go to the next slide. This is the electrical service to the house that would be just over what you saw in the last picture. This is the back door. This is the dryer duct. And then from there to the ground, have some buried line antenna out to the 05 antenna. Let's see, is there one more? Yeah. So it would come here from the back door. This is just chicken wire. There's a length of concrete, and then I can put it in the ground 65 feet out to where that would be approximately. And then just past that is where we would put our gazebo tent during the warmer months. Oh, do we own the house? Yes, we own the house. Pauses, drill holes. Okay. Pardon? Do we have a window? No, not in that place. There's no window in that place. Is there another slide? No. Okay. So that's the whole thing. What I have, thanks to the generosity of Bruce and Pete, and thanks to some score at a state auction, I have a bunch of coax. I don't think any of it goes as direct bury, but I think I can run it all. But I'm just looking for advice about how to do all of that. That part of the house is slab. Okay, yeah, it's a split level and part crawl space, but not that part. The question was, can it go on PVC? And Paul says, no, don't do that. It just keeps the water next to the coax. I'm gonna hand this to you and let you explain.
Okay, if you don't have direct burial coax, you shouldn't bury it. You shouldn't put it in anything else because the pipe will hold the water next to the coax and it will permeate in. It's actually not even a good idea to put direct bury coax in pipe because the water is always next to the coax rather than eventually draining away. As far as getting your coax out there somewhere, and you can run a messenger. It's a piece of steel or something, cable, and then tape in intervals. You can tape your coax to the messenger. You better put it on.
I would say the water situation is based on the slope of the land there. And do you have a drainage way, one way or the other? I lucked out and I've got a 60-foot line underground and a PVC, access 1.25 inch plastic pipe. The highest point in that plastic pipe is at the very center. It goes downhill in either direction. So any water that gets into it is going to run out because it don't like staying in slopes. So that's one consideration. If you've got a steep, some amount of grade where there's drainage, that might help you, but it looks pretty flat there, the elevation.
One other thing I'll add is lightning protection. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, that is pretty flat there. The drainage is not the best. I've done a little to improve the drainage. I think I just need to invest in some direct bury cable. And then lightning protection. I didn't show it, but and grounding. I have a bunch of that equipment. The polyphaser came with the antenna. But I am informed that grounding and bonding is the third rail of discussion in this room. I should not touch on it. So we would be here all night is what I understand. So I'm going to save that question for another day. Wilson.
So I'd lean to expediency, and my answer to the coax is bury it and see how long it lasts. And if it doesn't last, dig it up and do it again. I mean, you can probably you either have it or you can get for free some coax. So see what happens. I wouldn't sweat it.
That's a really great answer. That's really helpful because that's I could probably almost be there if that's the case. So I have at least one close to 100-foot length of coax. Is LMR 400? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Bob says test it before bury. Yeah. Good idea. Okay, well, and every few months thereafter too. Thank you. Well, thanks so much. I appreciate the advice. This was worth the price of admission.
Thanks, Tom. Very good. And good luck with the antenna. I'm anxiously awaiting the hear how it goes once you get it up. And Wilson has a few more words for it.
Since the ARRL didn't show up, I will encourage you all to join the ARRL if you are not members. You can hear a lot of grousing about it, and like you and me, it is not perfect, but it is the organization we have, and it represents us to our so-called Congress and the world. So please send in your money. And I have another show and tell. A few months ago, I unwisely, well, I don't know if it's wise or not, mentioned that kids used to take apart old TV sets and build things. And I went home, and in a day or two, I got an email that said, we should have a group to do that in the land of magic. And of course, I said, okay, you get a group and I'll get the land of magic. And lo and behold, I don't know how many people have been involved so far, 8 or 10, I think altogether, certainly 8. And we have destroyed 4 television sets and several pieces of homemade ham equipment and a couple things that were so nondescript that we weren't quite sure what they were. But after about 4 meetings, people started to say, we're really good at tearing things apart. When are we going to go to the other part? When are we going to put something together? So yesterday was the first put together. And we have hundreds of components and nuts and bolts and all kind of stuff. And needless to say, that can be augmented from the inventory of the Land of Magic. And so we stood around yesterday and we got right to the point. We always get right to the point. We talked about how much wire we needed for solar panels out in the yard. And we talked about what transformers do. And sorry? Oh, yes, we covered the price of precious metals, which is, if you haven't looked, it's absolutely astonishing. Gold is over $4,500 now, and silver is over 80. So just in case you're interested in economics, what that means is that your dollar is no damn good and that you ought to be buying something that's worth something because your dollars aren't going to be. Anyway, we had a nice session yesterday, and after covering battery banks and inverters and solar panels and Ohm's law and a few simple examples of impedance and stuff like that, we got to work and we got out some transformers, and there are a couple of experienced members, and they sort of guided the others, and we put a few volts into the transformers and measured what came out, and that enabled us to compute turns ratios and voltage and stuff like that. And then we were able to identify which wires go where. You can't see them, but there are about a dozen wires coming out the bottom of that black box. And so then I looked around and found that old chassis. That was not one of our TVs, but something from the Land of Magic. And lo and behold, people started drilling holes and banging and looking for parts. And you can see one of the people there with a kind of a, I won't call that grin what I usually do, but a grin. He's very happy, and he is so happy that I thought I was going to have to give him dinner. The session is normally from 3 to 5, but I don't care when it ends, of course. So we got to this beautiful point at about 6:30, and next time we're going to start putting wire in here, and then we're going to get another chassis and put another tube socket in it and start making an oscillator. So if you can do CW someday, you might get on the air and hear the OCRA oscillator.
Just to let everyone know that the next session is January 25th at 3 p.m. at Wilson's house, specifically in the Land of Magic. Let me know how it goes, because I unfortunately have another commitment. That was one of the reasons why, even though it was technically 5 p.m. ending, I was like, I want to get some stuff done, because I actually wanted to build stuff instead of just taking apart TVs. But yeah, been having a lot of fun with it.
Okay, outstanding. And I saw this picture earlier. So those of you that have been around the hobby for a while, okay, what kind of tube is that? Come on, what's the number? Eva, what's the number? What's the number? There you go. 5U4. Is it a G, GB? I don't know either, but it's a 5U4. Okay, excellent. Yeah, I can see the beginning of a power supply and then the transmitter. Is there another picture, or is that the picture? That's it? Okay. So that kind of brings us to the end of the meeting. What time is it? 8:32. Anybody have any questions, comments, futures? Boyd, do you want to, what's going on next in the world here? Go to the next slide here, if you would, Matthew. Okay, so the next membership meeting is February 9th. The new leadership team will be pulling that agenda together and sending out the invitations, and Lori and I are officially retiring, and I think by then we'll be almost in France. Pretty close. Yes, we may be moving. Anybody want to buy a house with a lot of antennas? Okay. So thank you all. We have no hurry to get out of here. Go look at the projects. Check them out. I'm sure Paul will be able to answer some more questions for you. Specifically, he's got some pieces over here that are associated. They left. They disappeared. The little piece on the end, the little model piece. Oh, he's got them over there. So he has some of the little pieces that were in the pictures if you want to see how they're put together. And I'm sure Tom will have the same ability to explain his antennas some more. So wander around the room, talk amongst yourselves, have a good time. We don't get thrown out yet. Dave will throw us out when it's time. Thanks, everybody.